Welcome to this panel. The title is Collecting the Intangible, and we've got four very skilled speakers. With them, we will try to discover the news about the Web3 NFTs world evolution of the 2022. In the past few years, we have seen the rise of the non-fungible tokens all over the world, new digital art forms, metaverses, and we are witnessing the growth of purely digital fashion brands, crypto artwork, and other intangible creations that will blur the boundaries between what is art, what is not art, what is design, what is collectible, and the practice of collecting has changed throughout this digital acceleration, and we'll see what changes and opportunities are now available for the collector today. We will talk with first of all, with Meryl van Helsingen, that is founder and managing director at Next Museum. Welcome, Meryl. We will have a talk with Alexis Christodoulou, that is a fabulous 3D artist from Cape Town, and he has spent I read the last 10 years building a collection of works focusing on imaginary architecture. He has a lovely Instagram profile. Maybe we can share after some of his artworks. We have also Federico Palazzari, that is the owner of Nemo Lighting. It's a lovely design company, custom lighting production. And last but not least, Hun Wai, from co-founder of Lanzavecchia NY, that is an internationally renowned, award-winning design studio based between Italy and Singapore, specializing in physical and digital works. And we will talk about the genesis of their last NFT. And first of all, I would like to give you some arguments and some news. I've read on non-fungible.com that is currently the art price of the NFT, that in the first quarter of 2022, already 8 billion had been sold worldwide in NFTs. Of course, the art part is just a kind of 10% of this huge amount of money spent all over the world, but probably we don't see the bubble that many people forecast in the last months. The general public seems to be losing interest in this first months of the 2022 in NFTs. The search volume of the word on Google is slowing down, but the resale profit volume is increasing, and I mean, it's nearly 8 billion traded in the first quarter, and the market cannot really be considered to have collapsed. And in the last days, I've seen a lovely video on TikTok, probably I remember, of a young guy that was asked to explain what Web3 is. And he summarized in that way, okay, the Web 1 in the 90s was read. And of course, that's what we used to do in the 90s with internet, read. The Web 2 is write and read. Of course, with the social media, we started to share contents, our contents, write contents, images, videos, and whatever. Web 3, own. probably the most important feature of the Web3 will be the owning of digital assets, especially because we will spend much more time in the digital metaverses in the next years, and we will have the need to own assets, digital assets, in this new life. And it's important to talk with artists, because usually artists are the people that are able to forecast the future. Historically, it was that way. And it's a very, very interesting phenomenon, because it is worldwide. We have NFT artists coming from all over the world. If we take a look through the major marketplaces, Super Rare, OpenSea, Nifty, and so on. But it's not only market. It's especially a possibility to elevate some people that in the last 10 years used to be considered just as graphic designers or IT nerds, and now are artists that just like all the traditional system artists. In the next week here in Italy, we will host a very important show of Beeple at Palazzo Strozzi in Florence, and this is the place where has exhibited Jeff Koons last year. So I mean, it's now the place it's for Beeple. That's how it changes. And I would like to start with Meryl, because you decided 2 years ago to open a place for the art lovers and digital lovers, and why you had this idea before Beeple. Now everything is after and before Beeple. No, just like it's.
So I think. So digital arts, like you just said, like graphic designers and computer nerds are now kind of the famous artists. But I think especially in the Netherlands, also in Asia and the US, there's a lot of talent that already started experimenting, making digital art, making internet art, tech arts, even in the 60s, 70s. Like there was a big boom in the 80s. There were incredible digital art festivals already started in the 80s, 90s, and gaining a lot of popularity, but very, very niche and also very physical still. So showing digital art in a physical way, testing new projectors, testing screens, virtual reality, augmented reality. And my personal journey was that I kind of slowly started seeing that popping up in more permanent spaces. And also I went to a lot of these festivals, and I felt it's such a shame that it's there only for a weekend or a week for people that are in the know, but it's not somewhere in a permanent space where you can see it for a few months. And so I moved back to the Netherlands from the UK, and in London, there's so much experiments, and the Netherlands was a bit traditional. So I thought 2019, why not just build it myself? So really a permanent space for digital art installations. I had no idea there was a pandemic going to hit. But what I did know is that there was so much talent out there, and we had conversations with incredible artists, and there's so much work being made, and there was so little being shown in big kind of institutional exhibitions. So that's where the idea came from. And this was before Beeple, and before I knew that this was actually the most exciting moment in history to start embarking on a journey in the world of digital art.
And now what you do in this digital space, which are the projects of the next future for the next museum?
So at the moment, we're actually in the last week of the first exhibition. and we're building the new exhibition in the coming month. And the new exhibition is going to be fully focused on digital identities, gaming, digital fashion, NFTs, collectibles, and we're really tapping into that layer of how people can create their own identities and behave and explore themselves outside of the realm of humanity, outside of the realm of the kind of binary divide. When you're a human, you're born, you're a man or a woman, or you have to be heterosexual and straight, or and what happens in the virtual world. People can explore themselves, can express themselves. So our exhibition is showing a lot of artworks that are really going deep into this topic, but we're also offering people the chance to explore themselves, playing games, being transported into a digital fashion world so they can try on digital fashion, they can follow an avatar, communicate with an avatar. Yeah.
Meryl, basically, just to be very clear and concrete,
Yeah.
when people decide to visit an exhibition on your platform, do they need an Oculus or whatever? It's a metaverse.
It's a physical exhibition.
It's a physical exhibition.
Yes, and I think so. What we're trying to do is bridge the gap between the physical world and the digital world. And I think it's still very important to have that physical layer, because if you see how people interact and how people socialize and come together and reflect when it's a physical exhibition, I think that is still here to stay. But I think there's a really big job to be done in how do you show digital art in a physical space. I see a lot of galleries that put a bunch of flat screens on the wall and then they show NFTs. I don't think it works like that. No. You miss the whole opportunity that the metaverse gives you. There, you know,
maybe this could be the link between the design world and the art world. I mean, to find solution of in the display of this new forms of art. What do you think?
Yeah, because 100%. And also, I think it's important to maybe not try to replicate one in the other realm, or not replicate a physical exhibition and put it in the virtual world, or the other way around. I think it should function more as a portal. So whatever you see in the physical museum can be like a snippet or an element that educates and that lures you in. But then you should be able to go further and deeper and really, maybe even with your avatar, you enter the game that we're hinting at in the museum. So
it's a regular museum. I mean, nothing for sale. It's just exhibition of artists, or it's also there's a market.
So at the moment, we're gonna start with implementing also NFTs. So what we're gonna do is one big experiment, basically. And we want to understand how you can build a community within the museum and connecting with your audiences. And I think blockchain technology is the thing that's absolutely perfect for this, because your community can, for example, even invest in the collection you build. Yeah. You can start up a DAO, so people from your community also co-own the works that you show or that we commission. So in that sense, that's how we want to work with NFTs.
There are many critics regarding the NFTs from different sides, and I would like to talk also with you about this, because the impact on the environment, the lack of laws and the lack of fiscal themes. It's still ongoing experience. I knew many artists that have had problem with stolen artworks from one marketplace to another market, reminted in another marketplace, or wallets stolen, and you cannot do anything because, I mean, this is DAO and this is decentralized. You cannot go to the police. I mean, if you have you don't have any insurances or whatever. So it's obviously very, very interesting, this new technology. but the blockchain technology, we are all waiting for Ethereum 2, but at the moment we have just this standard Ethereum blockchain. So all these farms in Mongolia and Kazakhstan are producing a lot of carbon, and I would like to know which is your opinion of all of you regarding all these problems, because many artists I've talked with in Venice Biennale recently last week, they, for example, they don't want to deal with this technology because it's not green at all. What you think?
So, well, there's a few points, but to keep it concise, I think when it comes to the environment, there's many blockchains that are already operating on a different level. So, for example, we will be working with Tezos.
Polygon, Tezos,
exactly. Yeah. But Polygon would be then layer 2, but Tezos entirely different blockchain. And Tezos is also very much working in the world of art and working with fine art NFTs. It's open source, artists can still experiment, they can build together. Some of the smart contracts are even open for your own interpretation. So I think for me, that's already an answer. And the reason we haven't done an NFT drop so far is exactly this. We didn't want to, as an institution, just jump on this new trend because it's a hype and everyone's doing it and we want to be the first. We really kind of started learning, reading, talking, educating ourselves. And now I think it's the right time to work on a different blockchain because Ethereum for us is not right.
And what about the cryptocurrencies? You're based in Holland, right? In Netherlands. Yeah. Okay, because here in Italy they're not they're not doing so good. I mean, all the people that raised the big amount of money just right now are in Switzerland and in Dubai, because these are the two places where it's much easier, I mean, to spend these cryptocurrencies and to declare it and whatever. How is the position in the Netherlands?
I think in the Netherlands, we're already being taxed. So that system is already in place. So that's different in the US, I believe, or for example, in Singapore. But in the Netherlands, it's open still. So it's quite free. But when I listen to my friends in Portugal, it's kind of almost, I believe, like a tax haven if you're into cryptos.
Yeah. And in fact, the big venues of the crypto are in Lisbon. Yeah. Anyway, Alexis, you are a lovely artist. I saw before this meeting your profile and your artworks, and I'm in love with your creations. So you're kind of blurring, melting between design, art, and dream, and surrealism, and a piece of René Magritte and whatever. But today, and this research is coming from the recent digital years, or you were still in love with this kind of dreamy scenario also from the beginning of your career? And what are your plans right now, where we can experience your artworks?
Yeah, to answer, firstly, I'm actually in the Netherlands as well.
In the Netherlands, sorry.
I live in Amsterdam, yeah. I moved here from Cape Town about a year ago. And apologies, Meryl, for not having been to your museum yet. I was struggling during COVID, but my colleagues here in my studio all can't stop talking about it. So congratulations for everything you've done. And I really hope that I can visit you guys soon.
Thank you.
You're in the north, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will make an effort to come and visit you guys in the next couple of days.
I'll send you some pictures.
Yeah. Great. No, I'll come and look at it in person. That's the thing to do. So yeah, back to your first question. I've been sort of 3D is sort of let's call it a new occupation in my life. I was a copywriter. I was a winemaker. I was a struggling screenwriter.
A winemaker in South Africa?
Yeah. Where I'm from is a crazy wine area in South Africa. So
Stellenbosch.
No, Cape Town, the general Cape Town.
Cape Town. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't in Stellenbosch, but Yeah, good knowledge of wine there.
I've been there once, and I mean, lovely wines. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a good place. Nothing like the Dutch wines though, but the sort of progression in my artistic career went from sort of being a struggling screenwriter to finding 3D about 10, 12 years ago, I believe, and realizing that I could basically teach myself this software and this artistic expression. And, sort of trying to find a artistic voice within the medium. I wasn't necessarily trying to be an artist in 3D. I just really found it like an enticing medium. But I soon started sort of like recognizing that there was, at least from my perspective, there was a sort of a deficit in what people were using 3D for. They were using it more for like fantasy and video games and science fiction, and not a lot of people were using it to sort of do more minimalist ideas, sort of like modernist ideas. And so my journey sort of began in exploring that, and the sort of architectural ideas that the reason why I carry on using architecture is just because I found it initially as a good sort of parallel between like a game world and what I wanted to create. At the same time, when I was starting, I'm very aware of the fact that there was a lot of like digital art being made and being done in ways that weren't video game like. And digital art was also being created, and collected, just like Mel said. There's been people collecting digital art for, many, many years. And there's some really big collectors who have like really big, vaults and collections of internet art dating back to like, some of the first like websites that they were buying, and that's kind of like just an extension of, what we're doing now is just like sort of an extension of that digital art form.
Yes,
and that's been in museums for, you go to the Stedelijk Museum, there's websites there, there's, digital art, there's, we're not suddenly only now connected digital art. But as you said earlier on, what's interesting is that a lot of artists who, myself included, who were seen as sort of makers of, what do they call it? Decorative arts or graphics. Yeah. I think decorative art's like a great euphemism that people use to take it out of a museum context and say like, yeah, but you can sell your stuff, it's prints in a shop rather than in a gallery. And perhaps this revolution has really shone a spotlight on artists who are excelling in a digital format that weren't given the attention that they needed or the attention that they deserved. And now those guys are really starting to shine. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of digital art that's not great, just like there's always a version of something that's kind of on the periphery.
And Alexis, do you actually do you sell NFTs on the marketplaces?
Oh yeah, sorry about it. Like in the beginning of 2021, I started selling on Nifty Gateways. So I've done, I think, I stand to be corrected, I think I've done 5 NFT drops on Nifty Gateway. So I've kind of spread myself through the bubble, through the market. And I can draw you a graph of how things go for a independent artist.
Do you have collectors from all over the world or in a specific area?
Yeah, I think initially a lot of collectors were coming from the United States, and then the Europe caught on, and then sort of, depending on other countries' like stance on cryptocurrencies. So, as much as Web3 is like decentralized, supposed to be
is about editions or unique pieces?
I sold both. In the beginning, I think I tried to do all the different versions of NFTs. So I sold editions of small editions at the time. There were only like 150 pieces, and then single artworks as well, and smaller editions that were sort of auctioned off as well. Yeah, and it seems to be sort of if you can sort of follow the market and sort of zoom out a little bit, you can actually see how people are collecting art versus what, you know, maybe this discussion is about as well, like collectibles, or things that are made essentially to be collected and resold with rarity, you know, and utility and all those type of things. And that seems to be like the dominant force at the moment. As you mentioned, art's like a
it's
tiny
just
little...
10%. It's a 10% of the market, and not only this is a small percentage, but also if you think about the total wallets that are buying art worldwide, according to non-fungible.com, is about 8,000 wallets from all over the world, and that's nothing. I mean, if we compare to other collecting sector, but I mean, the reason tell us that probably will be more and more in the next years. I think that if Michelangelo would born again, I mean, tomorrow, I don't imagine Michelangelo sculpting the marble in Carrara again in 2022. Probably he used to use, I mean, laptop and softwares. I mean, the non-material, the immaterial should be the material of today, of this, our digital life. What's your opinion about
he'll
this?
miss the market if he sculpts. By the time he's finished his sculpture, the market will have moved on. And I think that's also like sort of a unique thing about, I always joke and say that, you know, we're like the NFT market, we're like living through the first 100 years of the art world in like 2 months. You know, everything sort of is evolving so quickly, or it feels like it when you're actually in it. Whereas in the past, you know, collectors would have evolved and artists would have evolved sort of like a lot more sort of gradually over time. And at the moment, there's sort of this like breakneck pace. And yeah, I do agree. I don't think that, you know, traditional artists 200 years ago would necessarily be sculpting things for the NFT market now.
500 years ago. Anyway, why from Lanzavecchia and why you're the co-founder of the studio, and I'm reading that you recently launched an edition of NFTs. Can you tell us something about this project?
You're right. I mean, we came from this world, right? I mean, in the past 12 years of our studio's existence, these are some highlights, right? We designed the windows for MS, both in Singapore and Charles de Gaulle in Paris, and we have a chair edited by Zanota back in 2020. And this beautiful piece of carpet here, which is about, I want to say, 100 hand knots per square inch, is it's for Nodus, right? So it's a carpet that tells about the nuclear disaster in Fukushima. So if you're an insect expert, you would know that this dragonfly isn't male nor female, and it's not symmetrical as well. So that's some kind of layering of story right there. So I mean, we come from this world of materiality, proportions, you know, color, material, finish, and I think you are right to say at the beginning about the pre and post people, because that really made all of us stand up, I think, like and look at like what's going on. 69 million, and Meta Cover, he lives in Singapore. So back to what I'm talking about is how do we evolve from this world of industrial design and furniture design into NFTs, and it was really a pre and post people thing. I couldn't go to China anymore. I couldn't go to Indonesia anymore to check on the factories and the production of prototypes, you know, and our main clients were in the hospitality business. So we're talking about landowners and property developers. And I mean, come on, who's going to invest in furniture during COVID, right? I mean, it was tough, right? So said, hey, you know what? I think we need to look at this. And so I actually gave a call to, I saw on Norman Tan. He's the editor-in-chief of Vogue Singapore, right, in March last year. So he was posting a lot of stuff about NFTs, right? NFTs. So I said, okay, hey man, can I come to your office and talk about NFTs? And he said, yeah, sure. And when I sat down with him early last April, so it's not even a year and a bit, now we're in May, he said that, oh yeah, you know what, we just got clearance with Anna Wintour for that we can do an NFT edition for September, right? Would you guys like to be the artist in residence for it? So this is how we came into creating our first Genesis NFT, and why we chose the vase is because a vase always captures the state of the culture, the state of the technology, the state of consumerism at the time, right? You talk about Etruscan vases, you talk about Ming vases, right? These things sell for, I don't know, quite a bit of money on Sotheby's, right? I think the fun thing for us about vases is that it's worth maybe 2 million like this, but if I drop it within 1 second, it's gone. It's nothing, right? So it's quite a funny thing about like how ceramic, if you keep it properly, it will last technically forever, right? So there were a lot of nice story components that we felt that vase, the materiality, the symbolism of it, applied arts, design, you know, that kind of drove our construction of this story. So we made this vase out of 784 flowers, because obviously we can count all of that in the thing, and I can just show you quickly what it is.
How many editions of this?
30.
30.
Yeah, so it repeats itself, obviously. So it's if you count it down in seconds, it's actually 15 seconds, which is the length of an Instagram story, right? So these were the specs that we used. So I mean, in real life, you were thinking about proportion, you think about material, thinking about glaze, you know, how to manufacture. Is it one piece of the 1,000 pieces, 10,000 pieces, right? But in this case, we had to play God on some level, because you know, like we tuned everything in here, the gravity, the weight of each petal, you know. So it took quite a long time to, I mean, it's a learning curve as well, just to tune everything. So I think one of the funniest things that I've ever heard about creating digital design or digital art is that imperfection is actually perfection. So there was something that we could tune, you know, like all these little details. So it was quite interesting to kind of think about design and creation that way. Yeah. So this we sold 30 pieces of this at 0.4 ETH. And we sold out over 5 days, you know. So there's a certain amount of royalties in perpetuity from the sales. I mean, you can go to OpenSea, you can go to the QR code here, you can see it. And we're lucky launching our living vase next month, and living vase 3, 4, 5 are in the works. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And the funny thing about this project, we actually caught the eye of someone from UNHCR, right? So they said, can you pledge your NFTs to this auction? And it was quite soon from September that we sold, and then we just, you know, gave them the flowers, and it's again, I think the great thing about why we chose flowers as well is this great universal appeal and symbolism and semiotics that, I mean, it's for death, it's for birth, it's for weddings, it's for everything, it's for love, it's for Mother's Day, so on and so forth, right? So I think it's quite beautiful, and we did this auction with Khaled Hosseini and Neil Gaiman of Sandman. Yeah, so far like that. I mean, I can show you more, but maybe you want to ask me some questions.
According to your sensibility, I mean, how is perceived here there in Singapore this NFT movement, this Web3 digital decentralized new life? We see from here in Europe, Singapore as a future city. I mean, very involved. I mean, in the new upcoming events. Which is your feeling about the perception of the NFTs?
I think it's, I mean, of course, Singapore does really support a lot of these NFT and Web3 events, you know, like crypto conferences and such. But I want to maybe just contextualize a bit. My speaking points is that there's a huge divide, the digital economy and the physical economy, right? I mean, because I come from a design background, so obviously when I look at, you know, how do you sell chairs, how do you sell lighting? How do you sell, anything physical? It's a very different demographic than someone who buys the NFTs, for example. And most of these people are what we call degen people, right? I mean, people who buy like to flip the Ethereum and people like that. So it's really quite a different thinking and demographic on how they buy and how they collect. I had this very, very interesting discussion because I right now we are developing like a digital furniture, so it's half and half, something public, but also you can go to bench.io to do something with it. So I spoke to a friend recently, 2 nights ago, and he owns Clone X, which was the first avatar of NFTs by Artifact, which was bought over by Nike, right? So he asked me, hey, would you like to come up for a Clone X meeting in Singapore? Like tonight, it was just now, but I didn't manage to go. He said that, there are so many people in our community who are just designing furniture for the digital avatars, and they're airdropping it to everyone. And if you want, I can see if you're interested to design or create furniture for our community, or if you want to buy Clonex, then you're in, and you can go to New York and hang out as well. That okay, sure. So it's a very, very interesting new modality of making friends and contacts and socializing and trust. I find it incredibly.
Do you see
powerful.
yourself more as a designer of the physical or the digital within the next the next years? Do you think that you will design more chairs for the metaverse or more chairs to sit on?
I think I've been in this. I think maybe I can say something, and this is not from me, but from my friend who curates design at the M+ Museum in Hong Kong. She says that designers are the regulators of reality. Right. So we regulate reality. I mean, there's something happening, then we react to it and we regulate it somehow. Right. I mean, I think that's quite a nice macro statement. So I don't think there is a demarcation between design and art. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all creation to bring value or in service of. Right. So I also had another discussion with a professor of a university that I teach at. She leads the digital architecture department in Singapore University of Technology and Design, and she's Argentinian, and she designs everything in Unreal and Unity. So obviously, in architecture, it's not new, digital twin and simulation. But she challenged me because I showed her the vase that I just showed you guys, right? I said like, that's a very traditional looking vase. And I said, yes, of course, because it's the demographic that we're designing for. So how would you think about a vase or a table or a chair in an environment that does not follow the laws that we have in this verse, right? And I find it very interesting because it becomes something that even our sensibilities would need to develop, because we are so used to touch and weight and icons, I can't imagine how it would look like in the metaverse, and I think that's incredibly interesting and magical.
Federico, you come from a company, you own a company, you're the CEO of a company where you design light, you produce lights. Which is your relationship with these new technologies, the Web3? What do you think? Do you think that will be helpful for you in the future?
But listen, I think we entered into this world by accident, actually. I mean, now I discovered that we are the very first company that utilized NFT and launched a design-related NFT. We are a very traditional company, and I was rather surprised and even disappointed, because I mean, we have invented so much in the last years in our traditional business, but visibility that we got with
the NFTs increased your branding worldwide.
Yes, and I was disappointed. I said, I mean, this is not, it's not right. I mean, that I was looking these from a different perspective, totally different perspective. The idea for us, digital art is very much linked to light, and we do light. Light is an important element of anything that is digital. And I was above all interested in the manufacturing. We do like the manufacturing, so I wanted to understand how an NFT, digital art NFT, is done. What is the guy doing in front of the screen? How is he acting? Which are the movements? How the art is, to a certain extent, expressed. I mean, because if you paint, I can see it. Show me the equivalent. And I like the manufacturing gesture that brought to life the NFT, I mean, the piece of art. So that was very intriguing for us. And that was an interesting moment, because then you realize the importance of the artist, which, from what I could see, normally has a very solid 3D background. I mean, and this is very important. You are able to manufacture if you have solid digital basis. This is something that I liked a lot, and I read a lot, and this is something that we tend to forget. I mean, to produce, you need to have the capability to do it. And digital
education.
Digital education, digital expertise, and which is something very different from the traditional way of manufacturing or painting or any other art which is more related to the traditional world. So for us, it has been a discovery. I mean, it has been a discovery. I think it's really too early we are too early to say something which will make sense in the next years. I mean, this is the message. What certainly it's fun, because speculation is fun, chaos is fun, and this NFT world is bringing all of these on the table. So, I mean, it's true that it's a totally unregulated world. They're trying to put, sort of limits. It's not going to be easy, but this is also the sexy aspect of all of these. I mean, the human being needs also sometimes to work and to play without boundaries.
Yes, just to give another argument, another element to the public, probably until 2025, at least here in Europe, there will be no regulation at all. They're studying in the European Commission this process of regulating laws and fiscal aspects for the cryptocurrencies, for the NFTs, but still will have the Far West for at least the next couple of years, and so it will be interesting. But I mean, okay, the NFT, the certification of ownership and provenance, okay, but what do you really think, just to bring the conversation in a much more philosophical aspect? Are you scared of this new future we are facing, or are you excited? I have a son of 4 years, and I mean, when I tried a few months ago for the first time the metaverse of Decentraland, I was building my avatar, and you can choose the shoes, just black or white. And I mean, the first thing that come to my mind is, okay, my son probably used to ask me the Nike for the avatars, but obviously, because say, okay, Daddy, I cannot go into the metaverse with the black or the white shoes, so please buy me the Nike. And this will be for him, for the next generation, totally normal. For us, we're a kind of in a bridge generation.
Yes.
Which are your feelings about this? Because it's groundbreaking. It's something that never seen. It's the biggest revolution since the last 20 years, obviously.
But I think that an important element of all this, it's irony. I think we should look at these things with a little bit of irony rather than thinking of regulating and bringing everything into schemes that by definitions are old. So, I mean, it's very much linked to what type of approach you have. Obviously, the metaverse is intriguing. And I mean, I just turned 50. And I remember that anyway, I mean, when I was a teenager, the first video games, you could choose and buy the football players by using so. And I had a lot of fun doing that. I mean, so it's nothing new. It's nothing new. It's just developed, and it's just developed dramatically. So,
and it does, according
that,
to you, it does make sense to buy a pair of shoes that doesn't exist and that don't exist in the reality. I mean, to spend $200 for the Air Jordan that you cannot wear, it's okay.
Listen, I think as long as you do it with irony and you treat that as a sort of an exercise for your well-being, if that makes you feel good.
Meryl, what do you think?
I think
You're
it's really
smiling. What do you think?
I'm smiling, yeah, because I love the comment about, you know, human beings need to play without boundaries, like take it with a pinch of salt. And that's also kids need to be able to play. And this is where progression happens. And this is where innovation happens and where people are creative and dare to be creative. So I think it's so needed to leave it. Someone called it the Wild West, like let it be the Wild West for a while, because it will kind of slowly sort itself out. And then the other thing to your point, like, are you afraid or what do you feel? In the beginning, you said Web 1 was about reading, 2 was about writing and reading, and 3 is about ownership. And what I think is
that was a very, very young guy on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I was about 18 or 16 years old. I mean, I said, you're great because it's a perfect summary of what's happening.
But when you said that, I started thinking, and I think Web 2 is about writing and reading, but it's also about people writing and reading your data and then owning it and using it. And I think Web 3, when it comes to data, you own your own data, you own your own avatar, you own your own shoes. It's your own decision. And I think for me, that's actually what makes it super, super exciting. In Web 3, you can be anonymous. In Web 2, it's all about your profile picture and your filters and who are you, and people get quite narcissistic. In Web 3, you own your own data, you choose your own Nikes, and you choose your avatar that can be whoever you want it to be. So it's less about perfection, it's less about being used, and it's more about kind of freedom, I guess, and growth and creativity. So I'm super, super excited about it.
Alexis, the perspective of the artist in this, I mean, how do you see yourself in the next 10 years? I mean, selling NFTs worldwide or doing physical exhibitions or whatever?
Yeah, what's great about the NFT world is it's actually put me in a position where now I can activate real exhibitions a lot easier because I now have funds and now have a bit more exposure. People are asking me to do things in the real world. So now I have an opportunity to go there. In the past, all they wanted to see was prints of my work. Now they want to understand how can I bring the digital world into the physical, and Mel touched on it earlier, like you don't just take the digital and put it into the physical and the physical into the digital. You find a nice bridge, a communication bridge. But I also just want to touch on the previous point where you asked if we should be buying $200 Nike sneakers in the metaverse. And I do believe that if the $200 Nike sneaker in the metaverse gives you some kind of utility or some kind of feeling, then it's the same as buying a $200 pair of Nikes in the real world.
Even if it's not for walking, but I mean, it's for...
If I wanted to protect my feet and I just wanted to protect my feet from a purely utilitarian basis, I would go and get the most like rugged leather shoe ever that was super ugly. But I don't. I want to wear a super flashy pair of like New Balance or Solomon's or something. So like 90% of the utility I get from sneakers is people seeing me in my sneakers. So the web version also doesn't wear out. Like, you can wear it for eternity. So maybe there's another 10% of utility in the actual, your collectible lasts forever.
What do you think about the fairs? I mean, the art world, it's all about the fairs. Used to be all about the fairs. We still need places like fairs like Salone del Mobile here in Milan or whatever to showcase and sell the products, or I mean, there will be Amazon also for the also for this.
I
Who wants to reply? Okay, Meryl.
I think a fair is for me very much about connection. I went to Art Basel Miami, just went to Venice. I didn't buy much at Art Basel, but I saw art and I met people. And I think that's the thing that I absolutely loved and that you cannot replace. But
the PR experience.
Yeah, and like the connection and just, I don't know, brainstorming and being in the same vibe. And this whole NFT group at Art Basel Miami was connecting at underground parties and showing art behind the DJ. And someone was wearing this Apple Watch around his neck with all of his NFTs flying around.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just fun, to meet people that are interested in the same topic and you talk about it. But I think those traditional kind of booths and those traditional sellers luring in people with money, trying to sell those Rothkos and Picassos, I mean, that's going to go, I think. I just don't know when.
No, I mean, I think if I can say something, also you quoted Salone del Mobile, and which is another fair. We do need both. Our work has been doubled. You need to be active physically and you need to be active digitally. I mean, let's say that the vibes that you get, I mean, cannot be replaced, honestly. But at the same time, you need memories for the future and you need to continue to be able to follow up. And digital is great. We have opened a digital museum where we'll be exposing our pieces. It's interesting. So it's again, it's just another tool, another interesting tool to communicate.
Actually, just to echo that as well, I think what both Maro and Federico said are absolutely true. And then, I mean, as long as we are still in this body and not on some server somewhere yet, I guess we will always need human interaction. But just to share a story in a fast anecdote is that we are going to show some of our NFTs in London like next month, right? And I was actually more concerned with the online marketing than the actual selling, because that's the nature of the demographic and where the market is, right? And maybe just to circle back to the previous point as well, like obviously, your parents, right? I'm not yet a parent. I'm 42 years old, by the way. So I feel 25 again because this place is just so full of young people. It's quite insane. But I think the point that I was trying to make is that it depends on what, just to echo what Alexis said, what utility you want from it. I mean, there's this latest thing, or maybe not so latest anymore, depending on how you see it. Stepn, the Solana-based shoes that if you run or walk, you get paid for it, right? So a friend the other day did a calculation for me, basically because I run almost every day. He said, "Oh, it seems that you can earn 350 USD per day just by running in those shoes, virtual shoes like a Strava run to earn, whatever to earn these days, right?" So I think it's also the question of how we think about it. Like right now, we don't think so much about ordering things from Amazon, but back in 1996, Jeff Bezos, like, are you stupid? Like, you want to ship, who's going to buy books from online, please, right? And you wish you bought some stocks back then, right? So I think it's how we think about it, and maybe we're speaking because how we think about it, and Giacomo's son would like, it's a very natural thing that how he's talking about. Just airdrop me some stuff, and but back to the point, because I think where I sit is kind of in the middle right now and trying to figure things out, not only for myself, but also for my students at the university, is is that the fun thing about NFTs right now is that you get to have a customer for 10 years or more, maybe even his grandkids, because he can keep holding on to it. So then how do you think about creating value over 10, 20 years, as opposed to like, if I buy a curry lamp from Vitra, I hope I can keep it for my kid, but maybe not, so it's rather not so much about the physicality or the kind of tactile quality about it. I think those are still very, very important, but rather that now you got so many more layers of value and meaning and storytelling that you can actually unlock with it. And I think a good case study is that, and this was a talk that I listened to last week on a panel. She's called Evangelina Lai. She is the head of marketing and communications for Meta in Southeast Asia.
Singapore.
Right. And it's just one of the, she said many things, but the thing I think was quite interesting is that the next wave of digital products for sure is going to be fashion, like without a doubt. It's going to be fashion. It's going to be like, you wear this, but not only that because at the end of the day, we are human beings and we want identity, right? Why do we buy this or wear this or like look a certain way or like wear AirPods, right? It's all identity, right? Like on some level, right? And fashion is the most immediate in terms of that identity building and reading. Of course, you can say furniture as well, because you come to my house, like, oh wow, you got the cop stuff and you got the whatever stuff, right? So I think digital identity is actually what we're all talking about, right? Not only digital identity, but the digital lifestyle as well, because that would give us entry into certain areas, either in the metaverse or in real person. So I can just show something and immediately you can get to a nice party with my friends in there without even thinking, right? So it's all this kind of reducing of friction, making loyalty a tool, right? Really a tool, not just a simple rewards system anymore, right? And these are all where products can happen. And for sure, the way a designer or creator artist has to think is about tokenomics, right? Which is a huge thing by itself. It has to think about how to handle your Discord communities, right? How to make sure you have access to alpha level information, because that's where all the Ethereum and whatever moves, right? So it's for me very interesting, because suddenly I'm not just talking to brands like Capellini or Lenota or even Nemo, right? It's like suddenly I can sit down, because I'm doing NFT, I can talk to an economist, right? I can talk to a CEO of hospitality group in Las Vegas, right? Because right now we are going up to the level of ideas, and whoever has the best ideas and the best network to make those ideas happen through NFTs, and immediately I can pay you like zoom straight away. Innovation happens at such a crazy speed, and rather than saying like what is what, which is important to have, standpoints, but I think from what I understand, what I observe is how agile your mindset is, because that's where it's shifting. For some industries, it's super fast. For some industries, it takes a bit more time. It's because of the speed of things. But I think it's just super interesting in any case.
Thank you very much. Our time is gone, is finished. I would like to thank you all for joining this panel, and I hope to see you live very soon to talk about NFTs and Web3 and whatsoever, because within the next months, who knows what we'll see happen in this crazy digital world. So thank you, Meryl. Thank you, Federico. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Hun. Thank you very much.